John Higby gave me a huge 1 year's worth of subscriptions on Patreon and sponsors today's video. Delney versus Dwinnen, so we'll assume it's White Weenies versus Elf Tribal. 3 lands is pretty slow, but yeah, we'll try keeping this. We are on the draw, but we've got a bit of a decent curve here, so like I said, we'll try it. A Draga Tree Speaker, probably going to be tapping for 2 mana next turn. And we just draw into another land, so drop the land and pass, likely going for the Lightning Greaves next turn. So levelling up the Draga Tree Speaker, see if he just levels up again, or if he has a 2-drop here. Alright, it is a Lord. That is, whenever you cast an elf spell, pay green to draw. Alright, and there's a Mana Crypt, so we can go for a double spell next turn. Yeah, assuming that we get a treasure token here, which I think we will do. Let's go Smothering Tithe. We should have 1, 3, 4, 5 and 6 mana next turn, meaning that we can go for Delney into a creature. Maybe just Delney into Lightning Greaves. We'll see what happens. Alright, our opponent had a Force of Vigour as it turns out, so able to blow up both of our things here. Exiled an Essence Warden from hand in order to do that, so now 2 cards in hand. So it's back to the slow game. Ixalan Huntmaster, maybe we are just fishing for a board wipe at this point. We also have a Nick though, Shrine to Nyx. So going off in typical 1v1 fashion, just hitting us for 1 with the Visionary. Alright, more mana in an Ancient Tomb, so that doesn't particularly help us here. I think we just have to assume that our opponent's going to have more mana than we are, so maybe go for the Discerning Financier. More lands than us, I mean. Although only 1 card in hand, maybe not. I'll go for the Commander. And again, we can double spell next turn thanks to the Ancient Tomb. We'll be able to go Lightning Greaves into maybe Sanguine Evangelist. So another Anthem in Dwinnen, Gilt-Leaf Dean, and that did make an elf token from the Ixalan Huntmaster, so it comes down as a 3/3 for free, and getting hit for 5. They do have 1 creature that can block us with the Leaf Crown Visionary, but that's the only one in play at the moment. Alright, Arcane Signet. So let's drop the Ancient Tomb. And I think we have to forego the Arcane Signet for now. Let's go Lightning Greaves into the Sanguine Evangelist. And that triggers twice thanks to our commander, of course, as will most of the creatures in the deck. So we get a couple of back tokens. And Sanguine Evangelist, I always think has flying for whatever reason. So not going to be swinging in with that unless we want to try and trade with this, which I actually don't mind the idea of. So yeah, let's swing in. Does trigger Battle Cry twice, but Battle Cry doesn't count on the creature that is swinging in. And obviously no other creatures have turned in sideways here. They do decide to trade, that's fine with me. Means that it's less card draw for them. Sanguine Evangelist triggers when it dies as well, so another couple of bat tokens can be used as chump blockers. So we'll put protection on the Delney and pass. And our opponent has everything this game, a Shamanic Revelation now going up to 6 cards in hand. And another Anthem in Imperious Perfect, so that is able to make 1/1 elves, which will come down as 3/3s. And now we've got a 5/5 turning in at us, along with 4 damage from the commander. So let's just block a little bit of commander damage here, because we might want to block an overrun effect next turn, although it's likely they've got Trample. Esper Sentinel might be a bit too late, so let's just empty our hand here. We'll go Ancient Tomb, tapping down for the Arcane Signet. And that can be a mana for an Esper Sentinel. And we'll hold up white mana, you never know, we might draw a card with Esper Sentinel and be able to cast Swords to Plowshares or something. Getting down the Discerning Financier as well, which I don't think the green player here is going to get too many other lands into play. Bunch of 3/3s being held back, which means our opponent can't block. Should have put the Lightning Greaves onto this actually, but I'm thinking we're going to be wanting to hold back blockers anyway. 6 mana being generated off the Nykthos. There's a Nature's Claim, so our opponent's looking to get rid of the Esper Sentinel and pay the tax on that, and then throwing out a Vanquisher's Banner for, you'll never guess, yet another Anthem effect. An Arbor Elf will untap a forest and draw them a card with the banner. So turning in sideways again, and is up to 48 life. We have 6/6, a 5/6 commander, a couple of 4/4s, and Imperious Perfect, so now we start to block more liberally with the bat tokens, I think. And watch us draw into a land, yep, there you go. So throw that down, we'll attempt a draw with the War Room. And just a land again, yep, never going to do anything this game. So I think we'll just take the overrun next turn, because I don't imagine that we are going to crawl out from underneath this. 36 creatures in the deck and didn't see too many of them, unfortunately. Now casting Elvish Warmaster to get even more tokens into play. And there's Multani's Acolyte as well. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card. 54 life our opponent gets up to from the commander. That's 4, 8, 12 and 16, so we can survive here. Let's just aim for a board wipe. Our opponent should have dedicated more to the board here because he could have had us, but it's not likely that we're going to get into a board wipe next turn anyway. Alright, there is Tashar, so we could go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 would trigger the commander, or the commander would trigger Tashar and grab something back. It doesn't matter at this point anyway. Just go Ancient Tomb, and there we go, down to 0. We would have needed to tap that to do the interaction there anyway. Good game to my opponent. We will try another one. Playing against Korst this time, and I'll be interested to see how good the morph, disguise type creatures are, those types of decks, because I'm not holding out too much hope for them if I'm being entirely honest. We will keep this thanks to the fast mana. Our opponent did say that he's playing a precon deck, so hopefully won't scoop to the Mana Crypt. Not exactly an incredibly powerful deck ourselves. Sakura Tribe Elder is going to be able to ramp, and just sacrificing it straight away, so could have blocked the Delney in response to attacks and then been able to sacrifice it in response, but decided to just take the extra combat damage apparently. Got a little bit of flicker shenanigans in the deck, which will be useful for things like Wall of Omens. Get down the plains into the Mentor of the Meek, and we'll hold up the Ephemerate just in case we need to protect something. Let's swing in at our opponent for 2 points of commander damage. A ransom note when it enters Surveil, and then you can sacrifice it because it is a clue, so cloak the top card, gold a creature, or draw a card. And then we see a Lightning Greaves after that. And they did surveil a card into the bin here, Salt Road Ambushes. Okay, an Esper Sentinel is a nice draw, so get down the Demolition Field, Fabled Passage will be able to bring in an untapped land next turn. So let's play ourselves a Wall of Omens here. And I will put 2 mana into Mentor of the Meek, which will trigger twice thanks to it having small power, and the Wall of Omens will trigger twice for the same reason. So drawing 4 cards here, which feels alien in white. Mentor of the Meek, argument to be made for us just holding up the Ephemerate there to protect something, because we could have triggered Mentor of the Meek again next turn, but we can trigger it with pretty much any creature in this deck. And we did get into the Ancient Tomb again, so that's more mana that we can put into the Mentor of the Meek as well, of course. The Ransom Note being cracked, I assume that that was for drawing a card, getting down a fetch and cracking it straight away. And obviously we're assuming that there's been some upgrades made to the precon, because this isn't a precon Lightning Greaves, and I'd be very impressed if there was a plateau or even a shock land in a precon. Anyway, they played and equipped the Print Lifter Ooze, which is a 2/2 Death Toucher, the perfect power and toughness to be able to block us, and we can't target it with the Court Street Denizen now either. Unless, of course, we go for Lauren first. So, yeah, I think we want more white mana in play. Let's go for the Fabled Passage, crack that straight away for our plains, and we can then play Lauren of the Third Path. We'll trigger twice, but we've only got 1 target for it. Can target the same thing twice, which is sometimes okay if you are worried about countering a triggered ability. And I'm not going to put mana into Mentor of the Meek here. I would like to hold up the Ghostway just in case our opponent goes after a board wipe. Yeah, I think that would be the better play to make here, so we'll have to go without dealing any damage this turn, unfortunately. A Toski, Bearer of Secrets, so they're going to be drawing a card here, I imagine. Unless we want to trade out with something like the Lauren. I think I would trade them here, actually. Alright, and they decide not to move in, so let's trade out this Demolition Field for a bit of white mana. We can go after the Command Tower. Not particularly bothered about blowing up any of their lands, but it does mean that we can get more white mana on the go. So they've only got access to 1 red at the moment, because they did go after a forest there, surprisingly. And we could use Ephemerate here to draw some more, seeing as how we have Ghostway. Again, we're not pumping too much mana into the Mentor of the Meek, unfortunately, but yeah, let's go for that on the Wall of Omens. Then it can be rebounded next turn and go after Wall of Omens again. So we're drawing even more cards off this thing. That'll be 6 in total so far, I imagine. And there's more flicker stuff with a Charming Prince, Ephemerate, like I said, rebound onto Wall of Omens to draw the 5th and 6th card with that thing. Alright, and our opponent decides to scoop at that. That's a shame. I mean, we're getting a lot of value here, but I mean, we're not winning anytime soon. Let's see what we were drawing into. And then we draw again during the draw phase. So, yeah, just some more mana here. Maybe if we got enough bodies on the board, we could have gone for Moonshaker Cavalry eventually, which helps alongside Reverent Hoplite and Court Street Denizens. So, yeah, just challenging our opponent to have a board wipe, really. If we decide to start dedicating much more of these to the board, then not holding up the Ghostwave would have been risky, but does mean that maybe we can get a Whiter Hoof Behemoth win next turn, so that's probably what I would have aimed for. We'll play another one. Playing against Lysa this time, and yeah, some removal, a little bit of ramp is fine. We will try it on the play this time. Okay, there's a Jeweled Lotus, nice one to draw into, so it's planes into... yeah, the Arcane Signet means we can still hold up both Swords and Cloud Shift. And obviously the Jeweled Lotus is just in the 1v1 version, I don't have it in the multiplayer version. I think I just swapped out this one card to play this in 1v1. Because you do need to be a bit quicker in the 1v1 format, of course. And there's a reasonably new one, Feast of the Victorious Dead. At the beginning of your end step, if one or more creatures died this turn, you gain that much life and distribute that many plus counters. That's a pretty good one. Alright, we've got Path now as well, so plenty of removal. Go for the Charming Prince in order to help fix our draws. We'll go Scry 2 twice. Pretty much the only useful mode on it at the moment. Okay, Mentor of the Meek. Mana Crypt is desperate to make an appearance in every game apparently. And I think we can actually keep both of these, so let's go Mana Crypt. We can draw into with the Mentor of the Meek. Actually, it's going to take a couple of turns to do that, isn't it? Yeah, so maybe swap round the order of that actually. Let's go Mentor of the Meek and then draw Crypt next turn. Going to take us a while to set up here, but I think Mentor of the Meek has already shown how good it can be. And when we've got Flicker things in hand, we can trigger it. Alright, so we risk a Bolt or removal from the Mana Crypt, but we risk targeted discard if we keep it in hand anyway, so might as well throw down the Mana Crypt here. And let's see if they can do anything with the 3 mana. We will turn in sideways, not doing anything on the end step. Okay, there is a Playcrafter. What do we sacrifice here? It'll have to be the Commander, I suppose, unless we want to go for the Eerie Interlude, because that's until the end step. I think we have to do that here. Well, we don't have to, but I don't want to recast the Commander. This does mean that we'll have to discard a card instead, I think, with this one. And we'll lose out on the Path to Exile, I think, seeing as how Cloud Shift is going to act as card draw for us. So Eerie Interlude comes back. A creature did die, so they gain some life and do some plus counters amongst the creatures they don't control. So let's go for more Scry, just in case there's something good on top. Alright, a Plains is good, so we can go for Plains first, and then the Meek. And same again, Plains first, and then Mentor of the Meek. So obviously know what we're drawing into, get that down straight away. Still pretty clunky here, but once we get the engine going we should be alright. Just a case of hoping that the Orzhov player doesn't have a board wipe. So deal the damage. And then let's go Cloud Shift onto the Charming Prince, which will flicker, and we'll go Mentor of the Meek on the stack first. Then it can be Charming Prince with a Scry 2, and the Charming Prince, that's at the beginning of the next end step, it comes back in. We're not going to hold up Swords to Plowshares, so I suppose we might as well go for Scry again. If it was at the beginning of my opponent's upkeep, I would protect Delney here and have it come in at their end step, but it'll be during ours. So not going to bother here. Try and put something decent on top. Right, Plains on the bottom. We are going to be drawing a Plains here, which I'll probably be better off keeping on top. And another Plains to put on the bottom. So clearing a couple of lands off the top there. Unfortunately, we're not going to get the land in before we see another Mentor of the Meek trigger resolved. So draw into that Plains. And we actually are going to hold up the Swords to Plowshares, unlike what I just said previously. So a little bit clunky, but we're hopefully getting something going here. Ideally we'd get into a small creature again next turn. Alright, there's Lysa, so not seeing a board wipe seemingly. May well have more spot removal though. So we might as well buy ourselves a turn here and force our opponent to recast the Lysa, empty our hand and go for Swords. Still just a Plains, so yeah, we're just turning in sideways then. Don't know where all these creatures are hiding. Girder Goons is when it dies, create a tap 2/2 rogue. So that's just a 4/4 at the moment. Can't block us with that, thankfully. So no land here, please. Monastery Mentor, that's going to go very well with Mentor of the Meek as long as we can get into non-creature spells, which I'm sure we'll be able to. So drop the plains now that we don't have to bluff our opponent. And Mentor of the Meek will trigger twice. This time we will put the 2 mana into it. Another land and a Mind Stone. Do we hold off on the Mind Stone to trigger Mentor of the Meek again more next turn? Mind Stone will be on the stack when Mentor of the Meek wants to resolve. Yeah, I'm going to do that. It's pretty clunky. It's a bit too... I think this deck is a bit too slow and clunky for 1v1. I think you need to play it at more casual multiplayer tables. But at least our opponent's playing it out here. We are slowly chipping away at the life total. Tapping down all the mana into Lysa again, and again, neither of these creatures can block us thanks to our commander being in play. And hitting us with a 4/4 is fine. So we've gone down to 30. There's a Smothering Tithe, more non-creature spells to cast. Let's go for the Mind Stone first. That will trigger Prowess twice on the Monastery Mentor, meaning that it will be able to be blocked, but we could take it in against a 4/5 if we want to. We will get more tokens, which will trigger the Mentor of the Meek, more importantly. So let's try and refill our hand here. That is a Skyclave Apparition, which is really good. Reverent Hoplite is really good as well, especially with Mentor of the Meek. See a Pearl Medallion as well, get into another land. Alright, so we've got Cavern of Souls here. Yeah, I think we can just play the Pearl Medallion, make our spells cost 1 less, and that will trigger the Mentor of the Meek. We can afford 1 more card draw into that. And obviously this makes the Monastery Mentor even bigger. So a token comes in, we pay with Mentor of the Meek. Alright, Palace Jailer, we're getting into some decent removal here. And Prowess triggering twice on all the tokens as well. Pearl Medallion enters upon resolution. So I think we're fine to turn in sideways with everything, including the Monastery Mentor here. If they want to block with the commander again, that's fine. Deciding to take the damage, so we get a free hit for 5 in, as well as the other 6. So we've got them down to 12 quite nicely. Vault of the Archangel is Death Touch and Lifelink. We don't plan on doing much blocking anyway. We'll have to be careful casting non-creature spells into the monk tokens, because that will buff them up to 3/3s. If we're on a go-wide strategy anyway, we can make our other things unblockable, and these things can just crash into the creatures here. But our opponent not wanting to play it out any further anyway. Getting to a Swiftfoot Boot's a bit too late for that, so it's just a case of playing a bit of removal and going wide on our opponent next turn, I imagine. So that's a half-decent look at Delney Streetwise Lookout. If you want me to play it in multiplayer, then let me know. I did build the commander for multiplayer originally, but I'm not going to have time to get 5 multiplayer games in a week, so decided to throw it into the 1v1 room for some quick gameplay action, and hopefully you all enjoyed it. Decklist is in the description as ever. Thank you to the patrons for their support of the channel, and I will see you all in the next one. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.